Good afternoon. I call to order the April 2026 meeting of the Academic Health Committee of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to those who are joining via live stream video and those who are attending here in the boardroom. I would like to take time now to welcome our student representatives for today, Ethan Ellis from the Twin Cities campus and Isabella Peterson from the Duluth campus. Welcome to you. Our first item this afternoon is to welcome Interim Executive Vice President and Dean of the Medical School, Dr. Carol Bradford. She is the new Senior Leader Liaison for the Academic Health Committee. And I know I speak for the rest of the committee when I express how much we are looking forward to working with you to advance the committee's work, to benefit from your counsel and impressive experience in the field. Together support the university's mission to advance health affairs for patients, families, community, and serve all Minnesotans, our nation, yes, even the world. Before we turn to Interim EVP Bradford, Vice Chair Goldberg-Luger, would you like to offer a welcome as well?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. You have articulated so beautifully a welcome that I will just add my warm welcome to Dean Bradford, and also in your interim role as Dean and Executive Vice President for Health Services. We are thrilled that you're here and look forward to working with you and the team.
Thank you. So with that, And with that, Interim EVP Bradford, would you like to share some initial impressions and priorities with us?
Absolutely. So thank you, Chair Johnson and Vice Chair Goldberg-Luger, President Cunningham, and members of the committee. It is my great pleasure and privilege and honor to join you today. I am truly honored to serve as the university's interim executive vice president for health affairs and interim dean of the medical school. I truly feel both the weight of that responsibility as well as the privilege of advancing the university's role as a leader in health and healthcare for Minnesota and beyond. I am grateful for the opportunity today to give you a bit of background on why I am so passionate about this work. Since the 6th grade, I knew I wanted to be a physician, and that is despite not having any physicians in my immediate family. I truly believe that the medical profession is a calling. As many of you may know, I'm a head and neck cancer surgeon scientist, and my entire career has been shaped by the profound impact academic medicine has had on the communities we serve: patients, families, learners, and one another. While my day-to-day now looks different in a, I will acknowledge, very large leadership role, my perspective has not and will never change. I still view every decision I make through a very, very simple lens. What can we do to make the lives around us better, to leave a future? I have dedicated my career to education, research, patient care, and mentorship, and I am truly committed to continuing that work here at the University of Minnesota. Since stepping into this role, I have spent a great deal of time listening, meeting with faculty, staff, learners, and partners across the university and in our communities and in our amazing state. What has struck me most deeply is people here care so much. There is such a strong sense of pride in this institution and a shared commitment to advancing health and health care across our state. I am so grateful to be part of a university defined not only by excellence, but most importantly, by impact. As we look ahead, the work before us is both urgent and full of opportunity. Minnesota, like much of the country, is facing a significant healthcare workforce shortage. We will hear from Dean Connie Delaney next on what we are doing here to address the nursing shortage. The need for transformation of health and healthcare delivery has never been more urgent. And the national research environment is becoming increasingly competitive, and the broader healthcare systems, as we can all see, continues to evolve very rapidly. I will draw from my extensive experience on how to lead through change. As we look ahead, our work will be guided by the university's strategic roadmap, Elevate Extraordinary 2030, and the opportunity it presents to more fully align and amplify our impact across the health sciences. In that spirit, we will undertake a comprehensive strategic planning effort, one that reflects the strength of this institution and brings greater coherence across our missions in education, research, clinical care, and community engagement, and of course, impact. This is not about starting over. It's really building on what is already exceptional and ensuring that our efforts are aligned, integrated, and positioned to meet the evolving needs of all of Minnesota. Across education, we will continue to expand and modernize how we educate and train the next generation of health professionals. In research, we are strengthening a highly competitive and impactful enterprise, focusing on our investments, enhancing infrastructure, and fostering interdisciplinary collaboration to drive innovation that reaches patients and improves health outcomes. Within our clinical mission, we are working to ensure a strong, aligned, and sustainable academic health system, advancing new models of care, improving coordination, and enhancing access. And critically, we are grounding all of this work in our responsibility to the communities we serve, ensuring that our efforts translate into meaningful impact, particularly for rural and underserved populations across Minnesota. As I begin this chapter, I want you to know that I am committed to showing up, to listening, and to engaging. My goal, and I've learned so much about the extraordinary foundation that already exists here, and so my goal is to build upon that extraordinary foundation and to support our amazing people who are advancing that mission every day. I truly believe in the power of academic medicine to transform lives and communities. That's driven me throughout my career and will continue to be my focus and how we impact the lives of patients, families, and communities. And we are incredibly well positioned to lead in health and healthcare for all of Minnesota and beyond. In sum, I have profound gratitude for the opportunity to be here at the University of Minnesota at this time. Thank you, Chair Johnson, Vice Chair Goldberg-Luger, President Cunningham, and all members of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Interim EVP Bradford. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Okay.
We feel exceptionally fortunate to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor, and I'm glad you brought up rural healthcare. At the University of Minnesota Duluth Medical School, there's a great emphasis on rural healthcare, as you know, and Native American communities serving reservations as well. So it's a very important component of that program, and I look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you. Chair Johnson, thank you. I could not agree more. I had the privilege of visiting our amazing Duluth campus earlier this week, and I think that nothing could be more important than making an impact on rural and the many underserved communities that do exist in our state. And I think we are uniquely positioned to make an incredible impact. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to our next item. Our second item is an update on the School of Nursing's strategic initiatives and innovation framework. To present this item, we welcome Dean Connie Delaney. Dean Delaney, thank you for the excellent work that you, our faculty, staff, and students are doing to advance nursing and address the very real workforce needs of our state. Let's see, is Provost Ritter here? Okay, first, Provost Ritter, would you like to provide some context for this?
Thank you very much. Chair Johnson and committee members, it's a pleasure to help introduce Dean Delaney and this topic. This, of course, really speaks to one of the items in the strategic plan, which is helping to address critical workforce needs in the healthcare area. The themes that our fabulous Executive Vice President just spoke to. And it's an area in which Dean Delaney has really been leading and contributing in the state for some time. When we think about the land grant mission, this is an example, I think, of doing this exceptionally well in a way that is addressing workforce needs, is deeply collaborative with other institutions in the state, and meeting the call of state government as well. And while I can, I just wanted to say a couple of words about Dean Delaney, who is the senior dean on the Twin Cities campus, and someone who is widely respected on the campus and in the state for her generosity and her leadership. In fact, about a year ago now, she was recognized by the American Academy of Nursing as a living legend. And the citation spoke to her innovation and her mentoring. And I would say that in addition to that, she is a striking values-based leader and has certainly been a mentor and a partner to me since I've arrived. So I'm grateful to work with her.
Thank you, Dean Delaney.
Chair Johnson and committee. We're here to talk about the shortage. And I start by saying that, well, we're in this most dire nursing shortage, probably forever. We are also in an incredible position in this university to assert even more leadership, not only in nursing, but in our profound interprofessional relationships, academically and in practice. I might say that the University of Minnesota, this state, is facing this shortage. It is not just here. It pervades the United States. It's a global situation. To just take a quick peek at the state of Minnesota, our overall licensed workforce, you see that the nursing workforce comprises almost 50% of the workforce in this state of Minnesota. It helps put this crisis in a deeper perspective. And we have a widening gap in care that is a result of this shortage. The shortage will grow deeper. We know that we need over 31,000 more registered nurses and almost a similar complement of licensed practical nurses, particularly important to long-term care. That was predicted to be the case for 2030. Demands of RNs are growing, and our production in the state of Minnesota is decreasing, roughly at about 1.5%, 1.6. I talked a little bit about the LPN shortage, and again, particularly impactful for long-term care, rural health facilities. The fourth bullet, much of greater Minnesota faces a significant nurse practitioner NP shortage, particularly in psych mental health, anesthesia, midwifery. I particularly highlight that because that is the key area we can be most impactful on. It's no surprise that nursing itself is also, like other professions, facing the silver tsunami. Let's take a look at schools and are we accommodating those that want to come into the profession? Right now, in the state of Minnesota, we do not have enough nursing faculty and enough clinical opportunities to address this shortage. You can see from these key bullets that even in the last year, approximately 2,000 seats, were left vacant or eliminated over the past 3 years, predominantly in rural areas, largely due to faculty shortages. So these are state statistics. I'll share more specifically about our School of Nursing. Third of the faculty retirement age, and you'll see a note here related to the average salary being $55,000 less than peers in the clinical practice roles. The lack of opportunities for preceptors prevents our school for growing the capacity that we're being asked to grow. So again, this key bullet about the dance, if you will, between academia and clinical practice is essential. This is what it looks like at the University of Minnesota. If I might say, Provost, that the applicants to the University of Minnesota at the baccalaureate level, the number one request and choice is nursing. That is a phenomenal statistic when you particularly reflect back on COVID and the continuing stresses on the nursing profession and burnout, et cetera, and yet look at what's coming right to our door. We have many assets that uniquely position us to address the shortage even more impactfully. We've created a group of collaboratories, academic practice partnerships. We've been working on this since 2013. It follows the national model of the American Association of Colleges of Nursing and their partnership with the American Organization of Nurse Leaders, academia, practice. We have 11 phenomenal partnerships. You see them listed here on the map. They are phenomenal groups that meet, outline key priorities for both, and enhance each clinical system uniquely for their choices. And then once a quarter, I convene the nurse execs representing these collaboratories. There is no competition in that room. They come, they share successes, they share issues. It's absolutely flowing. Let me give you a couple examples. One of our most productive, and actually our first academic health partnership, was with Fairview. Their incorporation of virtual reality modules, which several of you have experienced in a site visit to the School of Nursing, has been phenomenal in their residency program. These collaboratories also raise the awareness of the importance of a position called clinical nurse specialist, and for those that are in healthcare, really recognize the importance of that in supporting frontline clinicians, the research, the scholarship, and excellence. So again, we have 11 collaboratories spanning the state. They are aimed at improving nursing practice, education, patient outcomes. They're basically think tanks. View them like incubators. We have another asset, the Center for Nursing Equity and Excellence, CNEE for short, established in 22. That is an arrangement between the University of Minnesota and Minnesota State University. It is one of full collaboration. It is one that includes every nursing program in the state of Minnesota and most health systems. It mobilizes, just as an example, 80+ experts through the Nursing Workforce, for the CNE, Nursing Workforce Summit, to coordinate unified responses to the shortage. And this CNEE serves as the official workforce center for nursing for the state of Minnesota. It is housed here at the University of Minnesota. This center participates at the national level in what is called the National Forum of State Nursing Workforce Centers. It includes one of 48 states. The other 2 states are working on getting centers. Oh, I probably should mention on that, we've been recognized nationally. The Fairview Collaboratory was recognized in 2015 for outstanding accomplishments. And about 2 years ago, all the collaboratories were recognized nationally at AAC and AONL for outstanding accomplishments. This is a quick picture of the School of Nursing. We have 4 degree programs. The pre-licensure that prepares people to sit for national boards is comprised of the BSN and what is called the Master's in Nursing, a professional master's degree. You see what the current enrollment is. We have one of the largest doctorate of nursing practice programs in the nation, and preparing nurse practitioners, midwives, persons that serve in anesthesia, et cetera. And then we're the only PhD program in nursing in the state of Minnesota. You can see the total degrees awarded. We always highlight our Benson scholars. We were very fortunate that the Benson Foundation awarded the University of Minnesota and the school $10 million over a 10-year period. And that was focused specifically on the doctor of nursing practice. They recognized early the import of practitioners in serving throughout healthcare, but particularly in our rural communities, partnering with physicians and all of the healthcare system. That has now been concluded. And I might add that we were just announcing that we have received at the undergrad level, the BSN and MN, a $2.2 million award from, that will support just the undergrads, and we're celebrating that. So you see our total enrollment, see the faculty and the staff. You see the rankings of 2 of the programs. The other 2, by the way, aren't ranked. That's why you don't see them. So
There you go.
we view ourselves in full service in this land-grant university, in full service to the state and the people in the state. And as you mentioned, it is about individuals, families, and communities. It is about acute care, home, community, public health, et cetera, long-term care. We have a particularly empowering relationship with the University of Minnesota, Rochester. That's why you see the blue line here, or green, however it's showing up for you. We have a physical presence on the UMR campus. We partner with UMR. The students that are admitted to UMR can avail themselves of what is called an early assurance program. So after a year, they can transition into the nursing program. We have wonderful relationships with our other 3 campuses as well, Morris, Crookston, and Duluth. That serves as, one, a lifting up of the awareness of nursing opportunities, and also the opportunities throughout the health sciences and health professions. And in particular, with each one of these campuses, they have a clearly defined, I'll call it a mentoring, early advising program for persons that are in their baccalaureate programs but may choose to come to nursing. And we hold spaces for them to come to the MN program offered on campus here. MN program, fascinating, 16-month program. So when people graduate with a bachelor's, master's, or PhD, they want to become nurses. They apply, get admitted to this program. 16 months includes solid full-time nursing, didactic, of course, and clinical. And our pass rate is usually 100%. Interestingly enough, we do celebrate that. Sometimes we're shy about it. And I know how that resonates, Rebecca, with you. And the interesting additional fact about that program is that we have employers, health systems that come to us and they'll say, they always graduate in December, we'll take the whole class. You may wonder why. They're just enough older. So they're usually 22 onwards. They have experiences and education in all of these different fields. You may wonder what those are. Some are health related, public health, et cetera, and over half of them aren't. Engineering, computer science, the languages, music, theater, it is just profound. And yes, there was angst about that in the beginning, how in 16 months they could be so successful. This is what's happened. They bring so much with them. So we learn along with them learning, and they are profound leaders. Direct patient care, we have several that have created companies. They're in executive positions, et cetera. So I could talk a long time about them. So the two pre-licensure programs, again, the BSN, delivered both on the Twin City and Rochester campus. That Rochester cohort has grown from 32 to 48 in the 25. As I get to the end, I'll come back to that. 100% of our 2024 grads are employed in the field directly, and 80% stay in Minnesota. Our top employers are Fairview, Mayo, Allina, Children's, and Health Partners. What about the MN program? Again, I mentioned it's an accelerated 16-month program. Students have degrees in other fields. It would be rare that we didn't have a 100% pass rate. And we did increase that cohort from 64 to 84 recently. In the doctoral programs, again, just as a recap, the Doctor of Nursing Practice, think practitioners, midwives, CNRAs, persons serving anesthesia. Ranked 4 in the nation. I mentioned it was one of the largest programs in the country, and that can and increasingly has capacity to fulfill the state's healthcare needs, such as primary care, nurse anesthesia, and midwifery. And just as a fact, in the analysis that we've done, I'm going to speak to nurse anesthesia, that in this state of Minnesota, with the exception of about 4 counties, the CRNAs are the backbone of anesthesia in keeping critical access hospitals, et cetera, functioning in those rural communities. And we celebrate being in that position to empower them. I mentioned the PhD program is the only PhD program in Minnesota. It focuses on areas of science, greatest healthcare needs, and they are significantly, of course, related to the school strategic plan, which is in synchrony with the universities, and also AACN strategic plan. The interesting fact about both of these programs is these are the programs that produce the faculty. So we're one of the prime producers of faculty for the state of Minnesota and beyond. The other key fact about the Doctor of Nursing Practice program is we have 12 specialty areas. Most places may have 1 or 2. So we have 12. That's both opportunity and strain. Another phenomenal asset that this university has is the doctoral education pathway for American Indian, Alaska Native nurses. So we launched it 5 years ago, supported by a HRSA grant, and we lead the nation in the indigenous enrollment in doctoral programs in the last 3 years. And we're on target to even be well above that as we move into the next academic year. The other interesting situation is we have 3 documented Native American faculty on our faculty. Having 3 full-time, 2 are tenured, and 1 is a clinical track on 1 faculty is almost unheard of. We have formal agreements with the Indian Health Service, and an interesting fact related to our commitment to this program, and in partnership with the Provost's office, the HRSA funding was pulled in 2025. and we are maintaining it. So it's a top priority for the school. We don't intend to change it. I should mention one other comment about these doctoral programs, the relationship with Native American, the relationship with faculty. There was a fascinating article that came out on April 1, maybe several of you saw it. It's worth a read, Wall Street Journal. It was about massive opportunities for nursing, workforce, et cetera, and an interesting fact in that article was particularly related to the doctor of nursing practice and the role of nurse practitioners, and the demand for that is expected to grow 35% in the next 10 years, and starting in 2024. So we've already used up 2, and we intend to address that. There are more assets that you have here. One is immersive virtual reality. Few facts about that situation. As you know, the virtual reality is reshaping and begging a reimagination of nursing education. And there are experiences that students get in that experience that you can't get in clinical, either because of availability or safety issues. They can get them in the virtual reality. We're a national leader and international leader in VR in the School of Nursing. We maintain and sustain the largest VR program in the country. We're home to the Big Ten Practice Ready Nursing Initiative that's funded through the American Nurses Foundation. A lot of details, facts, and the effectiveness of that program, the data that actually supports it. We are exploring establishing a nursing workforce VR hub anchored here at the University of Minnesota, but meant to serve through CNEE and our other relationships, the collaboratories, meant to serve other schools in the state of Minnesota and also our clinical systems if they wish. So the HR hub, the VR hub, also has the potential not only in retaining people in academia, but deeply retaining people in the health system. And we have the data from Fairview, et cetera, that is also already supporting that. What about the AI? So it says we did an initiative in 23, but as you know, the school for 50, 60 years has been engaged in informatics in a full interprofessional perspective. And so AI, particularly in decision support, et cetera, has always been an integral part. But the evolution of generative AI was a critical opportunity for us to launch the Ethics of AI in Nursing initiative in 2023. It was a national initiative. We can share the publications with you related to that. But the key thing is that we were leading early on these discussions that as advanced and fast-moving as AI is, at its core, is humanity, ethics, heart, wisdom. So that has led us to conceptually move toward this sort of model in the school as we use AI that moves beyond just teaching and tools. In other words, it's a holistic model. And you can see the 5 key components there: heart, head, hands, voice, and of course, wallet. And you have those, and I know that you'll reflect on them later. So as we talk about what is our position of strength, we're land grant. We don't budge from that. We have high quality, documented externally, and we have a high demand, documented deeply internally, but also externally. We have strong leadership in the faculty and in the support of the University of Minnesota. Our partnerships, we're the only school in the nation, instead of having 1 collaboratory, we have 11. And that's what we got recognized for, how you could coordinate that and people get along and those sorts of things. They are assets to expanding these strengths of the University of Minnesota because we do it in partnership. AI, VR, simulation. So we're positioned for expansion. And that is, we have discussions with Chancellor Carroll on BSN enrollment expansion on the UMR campus. And expansion in the other campuses, particularly for the professional master's option. We have deep discussions in partnership with Chancellor Neese related to Duluth. We have also the ability to leverage the availability, accessibility of that doctor of nursing practice program because of the wonderful way the faculty have designed it for accessibility and clinicals, et cetera, in the rural communities. Our collaboratories are wonderful partners. And we have an opportunity to continue to expand the Native American Pathways Program. And as I mentioned before, establishing a nursing workforce virtual reality hub here at the School of Nursing to serve others. Couple last comments that expand again on our opportunities. We are working hard to solidify the funding for the Center for Nursing Equity and Excellence. That is about Minnesota. And as you've mentioned many times, it's about individuals, families, and communities, no matter where they live, and partnering together with all schools and most of the health systems. By the way, the door is open for all health systems. We have this opportunity to establish the hub, and again, it's to support our health systems in the state and our nursing schools. This ability to expand, first continue, and expand our ability to address disparities is in our hand. Native American, the rural immersion experiences, and of course, collaboratories. We have one or two more that are wanting to be birthed. And then fully leveraging the existing MOUs that we have had for in the neighborhood of 10 or more years for the MN program and promoting the DNP program with Duluth, Crookston, and Morris. So my deep gratitude to Chancellor Carroll, Chancellor Neese, Mary, you are phenomenal partners. And it's that trust and cohesiveness of where our purpose and vision is that makes this so strong. So with those brief comments, and this summarizes our next steps that we're working on right now, reviewing the MOU with University of Minnesota Rochester. We're thankful for Vice President Goldman and Provost Ritter's participation in that. The consultation that's going on with CNEE, both from a legislative perspective as well as how we work together. And I've talked about the MOU again, particularly the BSN one. We are also reviewing student support services, particularly with University of Minnesota Rochester, how we can have the most efficient situation in such a needed area. And when I talk about the Bradford scholarship money that just came in, there was extra money to empower support for our students, and we celebrate that. And then we are unwavering in our support for the Native American. Yeah. So with those comments, I would welcome questions.
Thank you so much, Dean Delaney. That was fantastic. Let me just open with a couple of comments, reflections of my own. And this goes back to the impact the University of Minnesota Nursing School has had in the state for decades. Some of you know I helped launch the breast clinic at Mayo Clinic in 1993. It was a whole new multidisciplinary, bring everybody together to serve the needs of the patient. And we immediately hired, and it was very important folks, CNSs, clinical nurse specialists. They actually came to us from inpatient pediatric oncology at St. Mary's Hospital. We used them. We had women coming in with breast cancer. Many of them were young. They had young families, children, spouses. How do we deal with this? And they were wonderful educators and supporters and just did a fantastic job. And then as we were established and we saw patients and they were coming back later in subsequent years or 6 months or follow-ups, we needed people to help see them clinically. And we hired DNPs, nurse practitioners, who partnered with physicians to be the clinicians to do follow-up on many of those patients. And that was just really, very, very outstanding and important. And that was even before we have the wonderful connections now with UMR and all the things that are going on in that as well. So that's just somebody in a different part of the state and a different institution and how we've experienced the importance of what nursing at the University of Minnesota has done for our state and for our state healthcare workforce. So thank you for all of that.
Chair Johnson, if
Yes,
I might I share a reflective comment?
Pardon?
Might I share a reflective comment?
Of course, please.
As you were sharing, it's reminding me, I came shortly after University of Minnesota Rochester was established. And I have a deep gratitude for the role that Mayo, in partnership with the University of Minnesota, had in creating that campus that was initially anchored in nursing. And that commitment continues right to this day. The strength and partnership of all of the Mayo opportunities for the students and also the grads is, it is phenomenal. So I thank you.
Well, thank you. And I just want to make a comment because as healthcare providers, we care about what happens with our patients and their families. And I think it's incredible, sometimes rare, but incredibly important where people are willing to work together and collaborate. And partnership with the University of Minnesota, UMR, Mayo is just one example of that. But I see this as so important that that's the approach you want to have. It's collaboration. We can be better together. And I'm really appreciative of that. And we are, and Mayo Clinic in Rochester definitely has strong appreciations for both the nursing school and for UMR. Now, I would like to ask Dean Bradford if she would like to add any comments or questions at this time.
Absolutely. So thank you, Dean Delaney, for that thoughtful and important presentation. First, I do also want to offer my sincere congratulations on your being named as a living legend. We all already knew that, but now the country and the world knows that. So well deserved. Can we give Dean Delaney a round of applause? What we've heard really underscores both the urgency of this moment and the strength of the University of Minnesota response. I see our chancellors of our campuses here in the audience, and this is really a need for the state and a model for the country and world. And I think your innovative approaches just speak volumes, as well as your dedication to our incredibly important land grant mission. As a head and neck surgeon, I can also tell you that the work that we do collectively in interdisciplinary and interprofessional teams is how healthcare is delivered and will continue to be delivered in the future. So the work that you're doing is so incredibly important. As you've said, nurses are a huge component of our healthcare workforce, and we're facing a widening gap between supply and demand for nurses in our state. And important work in all communities we serve, and particularly rural, underserved, and the indigenous communities we serve. What was clear to me from your presentation is that we are not standing still. You are an innovator. I love your innovative approaches, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, but how to do that in a thoughtful way to ensure that our nursing workforce is well prepared to deal with the healthcare challenges of the present as well as the future. Again, commenting again that the Center for Nursing Equity and Excellence and your targeted pathways for Indigenous students, again, we're really ensuring that our nursing workforce reflects the communities we serve, and we all know that that informs the best health and healthcare outcomes. It is exactly what a land-grant university is called to do. And I hope on behalf of this committee, I want to personally thank Dean Delaney and the entire School of Nursing for your leadership, engagement, innovation, and support of this critical work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Regent Turner.
All right, you called me Mary, so I can call you Connie.
I think that's okay. I think that's allowed.
As a nurse leader myself in a different realm, I just want to give my a special thanks and appreciation to what you have done for the profession as a whole. And, you know, being a living legend, I don't see one speck of gray in your hair either. So, I do have a couple of questions. Back when I worked with, you know, that first year with the CNEE, and one of the issues that was pointed out was that we have other nursing schools around the state that they don't fill all the spots, kind of thing. And I don't know if that's because they don't have, I don't know if it's totally just because they don't have instructors. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But where have we, because I thought it was a brilliant idea to try to fill those spots. My goodness, if we're going to fill this shortage, we can't have any open spots anywhere. And so if you could address of where you all went with that kind of concept, as far as helping, and I have another, but why don't you address that first?
I will. Chair Johnson, Chair Turner, Mary. First, we needed to get the data. That is not comfortable data for schools to be sharing in a huge nursing shortage. So the first thing we did, and by the way, the CNEE, in addition to the University of Minnesota, Minnesota State includes all private and proprietary nursing schools in the state of Minnesota. So it is inclusive. So the first thing was based on that, establishing the relationship, trust. Can you please share your data so we all know and we can help one another? First stage. So now we know that. It's up to the schools to update it. It's continuous. The second was faculty shortage is a key element. So why can't we share faculty?
Right.
And we're in those discussions now.
Okay.
The third was clinical availability, clinical sites. So that's also why the virtual reality hub is so important. The health systems and clinics, et cetera, are doing a phenomenal job of making sites available for our students. They also have stresses. So with the virtual reality project, it is how can we take the, if you call it burden or requests, minimize them to essential clinical practice situations. What can we handle in simulation that is also proven to be effective? And now we have that data. The students love it. They want more. The retention is great. They learn faster in a simulation than other situations. The data, the early data that we have is very positive. By the way, our leader in nursing is Cindy Bradley. Absolutely phenomenal. So those are three of the first steps that we're taking.
Okay, thank you. I also appreciate the fact that we are contributing to the whole ethics of AI in nursing. Just from, you know, the front line and also as a nursing labor leader, you know, my biggest concern is that we lose our critical thinking skills. I mean, because I'll tell you what, if you get dragged in front of the board of nursing, they're not going to accept the fact that, well, the machine told me to do it this way. No, I'm serious. And so, and my concern also is AI coming into the nursing profession, and maybe we get to be a part of the pilot, like going on at my hospital right now. Maybe we even get to do feedback. But what happens if, yeah, that didn't quite work out that well? Do we have the ability to say, no, we're not going to do it? Now, if I know anything about nurses, if they try to institute something that they don't like, it doesn't go through. That's just a dirty little secret, people. But it raises a lot of issues. And, you know, the critical thinking is my biggest concern, especially with the younger generations that are so used to using this. You know, they love the technology of the AI, et cetera. But you got to go back to, I was taught, you have a stethoscope, a flashlight, your eyes and ears, and you can make a whole assessment. And the recent heart surgeon that I talked to, he had that same concept with the younger generations of the medical profession. So what you going to do about that, making sure we don't lose our critical thinking skills?
Chair Johnson? I'm Regent Turner. These are some of the things. I want to go back to the young people. So what we're doing, you could tell by the model that we have in the school, the people that, the students that come in, that pervades students, faculty, and staff. Staff are just as important in all of this equation. And so I'm an ICU nurse, which you know, and that reliance on what I see, feel, touch, as well as the data is key. And so that's part of how we socialize the students as they come in. You're a human being first. You do have wisdom, even as a new student, you have life. And so I could expand on that. The second is that as the AI group within the school, and I'm seeing this is true of the AI-led works here at the University of Minnesota as a whole, ethics and the wise use and the discernment are really being held front and center, many examples of that. The school isn't sitting back. So for example, I mentioned the 2023 initiative and the work, those were national experts we brought together. We also did that in partnership with, now I think it's the 16th year of our Nursing Knowledge Big Data Conference, where experts from around the nation, sometimes international, come in, and AI is a front and center topic there. So we're bringing together more and more minds, more and more hearts for initiatives and more impact. I'm leading an effort with the American Association of Colleges of Nursing on technology and AI, discernment and implementation for nursing across the United States. We just had the American Academy of Nursing task force. The position paper is out now. I led that. So, and that isn't about Connie. It's about lifting up nursing, the university, et cetera, to not only have impact here, but how can we have impact in those arenas to frankly change all of nursing and influence health. My last quick comment, I referenced the Big Data Conference. What is so fascinating about that is, as you said, we get the data, we get the experiences of either anticipated and early experiments or actual early implementations of what doesn't work, and we have a credibility and a trust at the national level that when the Big Data Conference generates and shares, I'm not going to call it a position paper because I think that's a little heavy term for what, but the evidence, they listen. Okay. So there are many avenues and more that are emerging in that space to have greater impact.
Can I bring up one other point?
Yes, of course.
You know, the federal government just recently said that nursing isn't a profession.
Yeah.
Probably offended nurses all across this country. And I have seen, now I'm delighted that we don't have an enrollment problem, but when that came out, I must have been approached by several nurses of color that were planning on doing a nurse practitioner or nurse anesthetist or one of the higher. And they basically said they didn't think they could do it. And my organization, we'll be going next week, 250 strong nurses will be going to DC to lobby this injustice. And I'm just curious, like I said, we maybe don't see it here, but will this eventually affect our diversity in the profession?
Chair Johnson
Yeah, please.
and Mary, it already is.
Yeah.
So first, thank you for your efforts in DC. I have a great gratitude for our legislative work here in the University of Minnesota. Whether it's Aaron, Christine, Brian, they're wonderful to work with. And where we're seeing it is not only in diversity, but I'll probably the best way I can describe it, it is so totally demoralizing. So people that have wonderful records in the field and contributions in the field, as well as people considering coming in, this is a big deal. And of course, tangibly, it's a big deal related to financial ability to get their education. So it's already affecting us. We have had, that I know about, there might be more going on in the school, but what I know about is I know we've had one person of diversity withdraw, who was accepted for that very reason. And then this is how I approach it. I face reality, and then I stay in the space of there are very definite criteria for a profession. Those of us that are in it, we know our professions did it, decades and whatever ago. And so I emphasize, this is what it means to be a profession. We meet everyone, we have for decades, and try to, if you will, kind of isolate, this is a hard predicament, and try to isolate it to how we team together, just as you are doing, to change the situation. It's already hitting us.
Thank you for the comments there. President Cunningham, did you want to add something?
A couple things. First of all, thank you, Dean Delaney. What a wonderful presentation and for all the work that you're doing. I'm going to do your last point first and then go to a different point that I had. And I think the Regents are aware, but I mean, this issue in nursing and for the loans that are happening is across several of our professional schools.
Right,
So
right.
this is, and I'm glad you're advocating that. It is not just nursing. This is an issue across several of our schools, and the provost can speak more eloquently, but certainly we risk those students not being able to get the financial loans that they need any longer, which will eventually lead to a different pool of applicants. And certainly as somebody who went to school fully on loans, essentially, underscore the need for that. So that is something, and I'm asked a lot about it by students. I imagine you'll be asked a lot about it by students. We have worked some, and I had a question yesterday with our CFO. We have not been able to come up with a solution across schools that we were thinking of a financial product and what we can do. We've not been able to do that. We are discussing it with the foundation to think about what other ways that we can support, obviously, tuition and financial needs for students who have financial need criteria. So I just want to put that out there. That is really important for nursing. It's also hitting many of our professional schools in the changing terms and the around loan availability. Other thing I just wanted to point out is, obviously, I cannot help but do a presentation when a presentation happens, but to point out, indeed, part of our strategic roadmap is to increase the healthcare workforce in Minnesota. I think it's number 3.2. I might get that wrong. Gretchen has the tattoo. She'll tell me. So she'll look at her arm and she'll tell me. But close. But certainly it is important, and we are very interested in how we work together to increase in your field, certainly the nursing workforce, and thinking about that across the schools. I also just want to point out, with much thanks to the chancellors, that map you put up, this is a way the system works. This is the way that we're in one university across multiple campuses. This is the way that we work together to get the student to the right place at the right time for the right degree that often, of course, stay, as we noted here in Minnesota. And those innovative collaborations, as we've reduced those barriers to both articulation programs as well as to transfer programs, only help our students. And the nursing program is a wonderful example of how systemness was already working really well before we sort of coined the term before. So I think that part is quite strong here. So with lots of thanks, so lots more work to do in the plan, and I know we had a health sciences plan last year, which is now getting rolled into our Elevate Extraordinary plan, and you'll be working with our EVP and how we put together that workforce plan as well as a clinical strategy plan. So thank you both.
Yeah, I've got a couple more. I just want to make one comment on that Wall Street Journal article that was referred to earlier. We had a brief discussion earlier today, and if I understand that correctly, it said actually in an era where we're questioning the value of education, a career in nursing in that pathway is actually the surest way to a middle-class life. Right. And good incomes and up to six-figure incomes at higher levels, and so I thought that was a real positive.
Yes.
So, Regent Tad Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. And Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean Delaney, for your presentation and your amazing work. It's just outstanding. And sometimes I wonder why I'm on this committee. I'm surrounded by, right now, I think 4 doctors and 2 nurses. So, and there's a few lawyers on here too, and students. But anyway, my friend Regent Wheeler pointed out I've had more operations than anybody else. So I've taken, anyway, but I just want to commend, and actually my friend Ruth Johnson pointed out how many programs you have, and as the provost was saying earlier today, the University of Minnesota does a whole bunch of things with regard to Native Americans. So you've got this great Pathways program for American Indian and Alaska Native nurses. So I have a really stupid question that, as far as the medical folks are, once you have your doctorate in nursing, what do you teach, or what do you do with it? So, and I know it's probably something great, but I'm just curious.
Yep,
Dean
Chair
Delaney.
Johnson
Yes.
and Regent Johnson. I just want to say, we know why you're here. We've known each other a long time. And for your direct question, the doctorate has 2 situations here. The Doctorate of Nursing Practice is really designed to prepare practitioners, family nurse practitioners, psych mental health practitioners, et cetera, the usual ways that we look at people in the healthcare system, and midwives, and the CRNAs. And we also prepare people with the DNP, the doctorate, in nursing informatics, healthcare leadership, kind of you would think of as those supportive. So their primary role is not leading research projects, but taking the findings, the research, and implementing and literally changing practice and changing the lives of individuals, families, community, and in our case, the planet. And they also are qualified because of the doctoral degree to be faculty. Second, the PhD is really your research faculty that schools like ours need a full complement of PhD prepared people to lead research, collaborate interprofessionally on research, and basically make the discoveries that, if you will, feed excellence. They are also faculty. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Regent Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just a comment and a question for you. First, I got to participate in the Dean Delaney Love Fest, apparently, because, I've gotten to know you over the decades and gotten to appreciate you. We worked together on the Governor's Task Force. And then I got the opportunity to write a foreword for a book that was written about some of the advances in the school, the programmatic advances, the innovative approaches, the way you use data and turn it into knowledge. And I thought, if I'm going to write a foreword, I better read the book. That seems like a good. I was just blown away by everything that's been accomplished here and the continuous innovation that is going on. You're just, you and your team are a model for that. So thank you for that. The question goes to what President Cunningham talked about, our strategic plan 3.2, about, getting, helping the workforce, and we have the severe shortage. If you had to put your investment somewhere to help that the most, where would it be? Because sometimes the instructors are at rate limiting steps, and so is it exporting knowledge, to other areas with instruction? Is it training more PhD candidates? Is it doing something else? Where would it be? What are the rate limiting steps, and where do our investments go the deepest to actually get, out on the other side of this shortage, of this profession? And boy, have I seen the profession up close and personal. So I'll march with you, Mary. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Chair Johnson and Regent Wheeler, thank you. I'd like to go back to the beginning and make a comment, and then your more direct question. When we talk about things here, it actually isn't me. It is a school and a university in a phenomenal state that I don't know how to label it, but I've been here long enough that I should have a label, but I don't. But I know they're committed to health, everyone in Minnesota. and then our additional relationships. So I always want to acknowledge a phenomenal school of nursing, which you know, I always say this, first school ever founded in a university. That means knowledge and discovery were number 1 in the Regents' decision to do this. So we're seated with it. I also want to acknowledge it takes a whole group of people, whether in the school, in the university, et cetera, and I particularly want to acknowledge Steve Rudolph. Steve is our Director of Communications and Marketing, and he is phenomenal, working, partnering, and capturing the head and the heart. So you asked me the hardest question. So if I was doing it right now, I'd probably, I may change my mind if I knew what the quantity of money was. But thematically, I think that VR hub, because we're so positioned and it can impact all schools, is I'm going to spread it across 3 baskets, which is my personality, rather than all in one. And I would do that. I would do ensuring that CNEE can to maintain until things kind of legislatively turn around and such. And my third would be because of the Bedford Foundation, we have more scholarships coming in. I'm going to make another side comment that I didn't include, and you all know that Alex was was an alum at the University of Minnesota, CLA. He was a wonderful preceptor for our students. And the team has, along with UMF, launched the Preddy Scholarship, which has just skyrocketed, I think close to 100,000 just in this brief week or two. So that's lifting. I wanted to highlight that that's going on. But that third bucket, I would work on using that in partnership as where we can incentivize until we do the initiative to get the return so it sustains itself, whether that's academic programming or it's faculty hires. And that might include, as we increase the enrollment, we have people constantly coming to our door that want to be part of our faculty. That doesn't worry me. Being able to hire them does. Yeah.
Let me just add a couple of comments. Obviously, this is a huge success story, and being able to use the knowledges, the connections, the collaborations to think more broadly about it, I think is an important part of the strength. I also do want to come back to Regent Turner's comment and the broader implications of that. Nursing, several other fields have been now classified by the federal government as not professions. That has huge implications, right? It means that in areas often where we have severe needs and shortages, it's going to get worse. Right. It means that there's less financial support available because of that classification change. It means that more folks from different communities are going to see that as a barrier to going into it. I think we have to be part of innovative thinking around some of this. One of the efforts here that I really like is the MN 16-month degree effort. And I also really like the partnership pathways that are being built with the various other campuses. And that's not just kind of maximizing our assets within the broader university. It's also doing it in a way that grows our ability to answer needs that are more local, right? So if you're recruiting undergraduate students from rural communities to some of these great campuses, and then they become a nurse in one of the 16-month degree program, they're more likely to return and contribute in rural communities. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things also keep moving forward with these various pathway programs that I think I would love to see us doing.
I would too.
And, Ellis, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Johnson, and thank you so much, Dean Delaney. As someone who works on licensure and workforce issues, I have many, many paper ideas as a result of this conversation, so I really appreciate this presentation. My first question is, I find the time series graph on page 10 to just be striking. The number of applications has ballooned while the number of enrolled students has remained relatively flat. I was wondering if you have any ideas or theories about what percentage of those students who don't enroll are enrolling in other BSN programs, what percentage are going into other healthcare professions, and then what percentage are just dropping out of the healthcare workforce completely?
Good question. Yes. Dean.
Thank you for the question. What I do know for sure is that we're putting every effort we can into, if you will, redirecting when we can't admit for this campus. And we do that in relationship, particularly because they're BSN oriented, redirecting them to UMR.
Okay.
That's part one. Second, I don't know. So I have a lot of the stories of where it worked in, say, redirecting. I don't know the numbers of all those grads that actually get accepted in the other schools, although we talk about it. And third, I think the most serious aspect of your question is those that drop out completely.
Decide to do something else.
And I'd welcome opportunity to figure out how to track this. We know when they come. We have great relationships with the other schools. So if there is a mechanism that through trust and collaboration.
Data should be able to help us.
Oh, well, there's a solution.
What was that? Yeah, what was that?
National Clearinghouse data, you can help you track what happens to applicants. Did they get accepted at other schools?
Okay, sounds good. Great. Are there any other comments or questions?
If there is time for a second one.
Oh, yeah, of course, I'm sorry.
No, and then my second one, more from the licensing lens, is has any effort been made to potentially work with the licensing bodies on trying to reduce barriers to entry, credit hours, practice hours, such that we can help more students with the same number of resources?
Again, it's an excellent question. We have really close relationships with the Minnesota Board of Nursing. They're an integral part and on the steering committee for the CNEE, the statewide workforce. And we're also, so yes, discussions. There are things I'd like to see in Minnesota that are kind of a little bit there, but taking it to home plate, you might say. And that is actually having a deeper coordinated curricula for all the way from nurse's aide to LPN, to the associate degree, and of course, the nursing trajectory, and as you'll notice in the Wall Street Journal article, the nursing trajectory is primarily BSN and all the data that supports the efficacy of that. So the Minnesota board is working with us, and that really rests in the different schools working together and having the smoothest trajectory possible for these people. And part of that, as you already know, there are so many talented people that find themselves as an LPN or such because they can get in, get experience, and frankly, make a living. And they're wonderful people when we can discover them and support them. So that's just a beginning part of it. I'm going to talk about where our strength is and isn't. Our strength is fostering a collaboration that we're all in this together. We do not have a direct effect on our impact happens from the BSN to the PhD. So that's why the partnership with Minnesota State and the privates is so important, and frankly, the community colleges.
Thank you, Dean.
Well, thank you very much. Let me just say as we end, that the Board of Regents holds the School of Nursing and you, Dean Delaney, in the highest esteem, and we greatly appreciate all the work that you're doing and you're being with us today. And there being no additional business before the committee, we are now adjourned.